really need to invest in a set that I can actually change the weather and time on. Oh, hey! You didn't hear any of that, did you? Anyways, it's the holiday season, and I have a real festive tale to tell, so sit here by our tree that is covering a floor vent, won't lead to any problems in the future, and listen to my story about a little company known as Nintendo, and their backwards relationship with the personal computer. If I threw Nintendo and PC into a single sentence, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Well, probably an emulator or ROM site getting carpeted. But see, that's what you would think if you were simple-minded. Me, I've been splashed with the tism water, and know a thing or two about things that no normal person has any right knowing or caring about. And I know that Nintendo has a really weird and complicated history with PCs. And it all starts in the year 1984. This is the Famicom Family Basics keyboard, released in 1984. It was a keyboard for the Famicom that let users create their own games for the systems. The games could then be saved on cassette, which is a science I still don't understand. Unfortunately, that was about the extent of what you could do with this thing. It was nowhere near the level of something like the Net Yaruze. You unfortunately couldn't make a game, then send it off to Nintendo or something. The games made on this cartridge used pre-made assets and had a proprietary coding language. Honestly, I don't have much else to say about this thing. Most info I could find online was a bunch of techno mumbo-jumbo that I really don't understand. Okay, so I might have lied about our story starting in 1984, because a year prior, home computers started receiving ports of Donkey Kong. The VIC-20, Apple II, Atari 800 XL, basically every home computer was given a port of the game. Another year later, Donkey Kong Jr. was released on many of the same systems, and from what I can tell, Donkey Kong 3 never saw a PC port. And honestly, who the hell cares about Donkey Kong 3? Mario Bros. Didn't see many ports either, or at least official ports. By this time, both the Famicom and NES were in full swing, but that didn't stop Nippon Electric from nabbing the rights to port Mario Bros. To their line of computers, along with making a few of their own versions of Mario Bros. Like Mario Bros. Special or Punchball Mario Bros. Probably the most interesting of these PC releases was 1986's Super Mario Bros. Special. Yes, there was a version of Super Mario Bros. Kinda. Special was a completely original game that used sprites and elements from Super Mario Bros. Along with elements from Mario Bros. Oh, and take all that and throw it in between some very big parentheses. Yeah, Super Mario Bros. Special was a Mario game, but PCs at the time lacked something that consoles had. Smooth scrolling. And I guess more colors. Yeah, Mario Special's biggest downside was that every screen had to be loaded and unloaded. There wouldn't be smooth scrolling on PC for quite a while longer. But honestly, this is about what I expect from the 80s. Everything was still fairly new. They were throwing honestly really safe ideas at the wall, but then the 90s came along and BAM! All of a sudden, all those play it safe ideas were thrown out the window. We got Windows now, baby, and the internet. Oh, baby! DOS? What's that? Okay, well, we're not out of the DOS sphere yet. In the 80s and very early 90s, DOS was the operating system. It's like how Windows is today. A lot of software was designed for DOS, and the first of these on our list is Super Mario Bros. Print World. Oh, yeah! This is good! If you have no idea what you're looking at, this is print software. It was super popular in the 90s, but really blew up later once Windows 95 came out. But early versions like Mario Print World here specialized in cards, masks, banners, and so much more. Really anything that could be printed on a dot matrix printer, especially banners. Who would have guessed that having all your paper connected would have been so useful? I did. Unfortunately, Mario's print shop here doesn't work. I need the graphic discs in order to make anything, and because I opted to just emulate this inside of the Internet Archive instead of taking the time to learn DOSBox, I can't really do anything here. Thankfully, Mario's other MS-DOS games aren't as primitive. Next is Super Mario Bros. And Friends When I Grow Up. This was the only Super Mario Bros. And Friends game ever released. It's a coloring game with a bit of education thrown in there. Yeah, we've entered that part of the video. I'm sure some of you knew it was coming. Mario and Friends is a coloring game that teaches kids about different careers such as race car driver / mechanic, scientist, carpenter, firefighter, computer programmer. Any computer programmers out there? Can you confirm if this image is accurate or not down in the comments? Thanks. Armed forces pilots, farmer. Oh, good. I was gonna lose it if plumber wasn't in here. Each image is accompanied by a little blurb that explains what's going on in each scene and how each career works. Aw, man, we got Better Call Mario in here, guest starring Peach as Judge Judy. A small handful of these images also have small animations with music. I'd take your headphones off if you have them on. There really isn't much else here. This is a painfully basic program. It makes Mario Paint look like Adobe Illustrator. But the Mario edutainment doesn't end here, because we got Mario's Early Years. This was a 3-part series that covered preschool level subjects like reading and math. The DOS version I was playing, which was Mario's Early Years Preschool Fun, doesn't seem to work properly. But these games got pretty faithful ports to the Super Nintendo. And here it is, the gameplay! Listen to the digitized voice say a thing and then click on a thing that corresponds to what the voice said. If I could get my Fun with Numbers copy working, I'd imagine that it's not much different. Mario's Time Machine is another edutainment game made for PC that also got an SNES port, but this time around I was able to get the PC version working. In Mario's Time Machine, Bowser stole a bunch of artifacts from history, and it's up to Mario to put them all back before the space-time continuum breaks or something like that. I couldn't figure out what to do. I couldn't figure out a nearly 30-year-old children's game. Screw it, New York 2001.
Mamma mia!
Mario is missing. Alright, I'm just gonna get this out of the way now. Okay, now that that's out of my system, Mario is missing, just like previous titles saw an MS-DOS and SNES release, and an NES one for some stupid reason. Don't ask why I know that. The premise of Mario is Missing is a lot like Time Machine. Bowser stole some shit and we gotta put it back. But this time it's much easier. This time we have to find Koopa Troopas, which have historic monuments. We can talk to people in the area to find out where we are and where to find the Koopas. Also, Mario was kidnapped or something. Alright, I got everything. Let me just return this and... Oops, messed up. Okay, I'll just retry and never mind. Okay, well, I'll just go to a different one and I messed up again. In order to get a new chance at a kiosk, I have to walk all the way to another kiosk and try it. And if I keep messing up, forget it, I'm just moving on to another game. Mario teaches typing. If you're old like me, then you're probably more familiar with the game's sequel, cleverly named Mario Teaches Typing, get ready for this, 2. It was the birthplace of this abomination. Who would have guessed that 2 of Mario's most popular memes would have came from educational games? Mario Teaches Typing is probably the most self-explanatory game of the bunch. It is a game where Mario teaches you to type. The lessons range in just learning the home row to simple words to full-blown sentences about how us red 40-blooded Americans beat the British. Out of all the educational games, this is probably the most useful. I should know, writing is a big part of what I do here, and I never learned how to do it properly. Ranking this on the tier list, it's going in S. Also, somehow I managed to break the game. No clue how I did that. Let's finish off the edutainment games with a game that's more entertainment than education. Mario's Fundamentals, or Mario's Game Gallery for those people. Mario's Fundamentals is a collection of 5 tabletop games included and limited to checkers, Go Fish, dominoes, backgammon, and Yahtzee. Spoiler warning, I'm not playing Yahtzee. Playing checkers, the game completely broke itself and soft-locked when I tried to make a perfectly legal move. I have no idea how to play backgammon and barely know dominoes, but somehow I won both of these. Now Go Fish, that was an interesting one.
That's another book for Mario. Looks like it's time to go fishing again. Mario gets to go again. I'd like to have your Rexes.
I won. Now I'm sure you're all asking, Benny, why have you only talked about Mario games on PC? Aren't there any other Nintendo IPs that made it to... No. Well, aside from some old Flash games, Nintendo only slapped Mario's face on things like a virtual game of Go Fish, because apparently he was just that marketable. In fairness, this wasn't exclusive to crappy education games. You could buy Dixie cups with Mario's face on them. But then a little-known game called Pokemon came out. Probably not a big deal. In the late 90s, Pokemon exploded onto the scene. Any marketing that Mario was getting was partially sidelined for Pikachu. But by this point, Nintendo had ditched PC software. The Mario educational games hadn't done very well. They were a mess of off-model assets, questionable gameplay decisions, and themes that just had nothing to do with Mario. And so you're probably thinking that the video is over, right? Nintendo dropped PC software right as Pokemon was coming onto the scene, so there's nothing left to talk about. Right? Well, surprisingly, no. For a very brief period of time, and when I say brief, I mean it was a single time, Nintendo actually had some PC hardware. Yep, and here it is. Are you not impressed? Sadly, I don't own one of these in real life. What you just saw was an image I took off the internet, but yes, the Nintendo 64 Flight Stick is real. There were also a pair of wireless headphones, which was less weird considering that this is something Nintendo typically licenses out for their handhelds. I don't really want to dig too deep into this thing considering I don't actually have one, but if you want to know more, I'll leave a link to the MJD video you see on screen in the description. But Nintendo's weird Windows hijinks don't end there. In the early 2000s, during the dot-com bubble, something not too different from the AI hell we live in right now, a golden advertising opportunity opened up in the form of Media Browser. Media Browser had a very simple business venture. It was to make Internet Explorer skins based on popular IPs and load them up with ads. The company banked on consumers gobbling up familiar IP-based slop and getting bombarded with ads, and that's how they'd turn a profit. Wanna guess how that went? They were founded in 1999 and filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2001. Rumor has it that all who worked at this company went on to work at Funko making Pops. But Media Browser, in the brief time that it existed, managed to get licenses with tons of popular IPs like Star Wars and NASCAR. And of course, there was Nintendo. The first of these browsers was based on Pokemon Gold and Silver. Slight disclaimer before continuing. Instead of just getting footage online of these browsers, I wanted to actually experience them for myself and get footage of me using them. But in order for me to use these, I had to use my Windows XP PC, and the program I used to capture footage, OBS, isn't supported on XP. It never was. My old recording software, Action, is the same way. I could get Bandicam, but I don't really want to have to pay for it, and the new watermark just doesn't hit like the old one did. So I have opted to use unregistered Hypercam 2. I am not kidding. This records in an awful resolution despite the fact that it's matched to my monitor. I did my best to make the frame rate not suck, but I can only do so much with 20-plus-year-old software. Anyways, Media Browser made a total of 5 browsers for Nintendo before their inevitable demise. There was the previously mentioned Pokemon one, there was also a Majora's Mask one, a Paper Mario one, Mario Tennis, and a Nintendo Power one. These were just Explorer skins, so they unfortunately don't have any bells and whistles, but they are perfectly functional browsers because of it. Aside from the fact that a third of the screen is taken up by ads, and if these were still tied to a functional server, they'd have even more ads, it's probably not hard to see why Media Browser went under. No matter how much of a Mario shill I am, this would be unbearable. And it was. But after Media Browser died, something rose from its ashes. Braun Communication Incorporated. That means nothing to you, huh? Braun was a company based in the same area as Media Browser, and they likely bought up assets and contracts when the company filed for bankruptcy. Braun ended up making 3 more browsers for Nintendo. There were 2 more Pokemon ones and a Metroid Prime one. And I'm gonna say it, the Metroid Prime browser is the best one. And I've barely touched that franchise. And it goes really well with this Metroid Prime Windows theme. That is what we in the industry call a smooth transition. After the web browsers, Nintendo of Europe offered themes for Windows XP via Club Nintendo, Nintendo's now defunct rewards program. There was the previously mentioned Metroid Prime theme, there was a Wind Waker theme, a Star Fox theme, a Super Mario Sunshine theme. This also feels like a good time to bring up that Nintendo made a new Super Mario Bros. Skin for Media Player. I wasn't sure when I'd be able to bring that up, so... There was Pikmin and Eternal Darkness, and of course we got GameCube and GBA themes as well. That SP one actually looks really clean. Now, Flash games seem like a good point to wrap all this up on, but Nintendo has made dozens upon dozens, maybe even hundreds of Flash and HTML-based games for their website to promote upcoming games. This could probably be a whole video on its own, and honestly, I've been going on for a really long time, so I've decided to focus on just one of Nintendo's old Flash games. Mission at Snowdriftland was a 2D Flash platformer released in the holiday season of 2006. It was set up like an advent calendar. Each day players would get a new level to play and rewards for beating said level. Each level had advertising for Nintendo-related products releasing for the season. There were ads for things like Super Princess Peach, Metroid Prime Hunters, Ace Attorney, Wii Sports, WarioWare Smooth Moves, and of course the DS Lite and Wii. The rewards players would get would also pertain to the ad tied to the level. You could get wallpapers for your desktop, icons for your PC, or ringtones for your phone. While basic, these rewards were pretty neat, especially the ringtones of tunes from DS games. For a long time, these were the cleanest rips of these songs. But back to the Flash game. The story of Snowdriftland follows Chubby Snow as he makes his way through Snowdriftland, the coldest corner of video game world. He's chasing down a messed up penguin named El Pix who stole a bunch of artifacts from the human world, these artifacts being the Nintendo games and consoles that you get advertisements for. Snowdriftland was developed by a German studio by the name of Extra Toxic and was commissioned by Nintendo of Europe, only this time the game was available worldwide, unlike the XP themes. The game was built by only 3 people and levels were done day by day, sometimes being completed only hours before needing to go live. It was grueling, but the results speak for themselves. Mission at Snowdriftland was widely loved, but was quickly forgotten due to its limited run. After the Christmas season ended, the game was shut down and completely unplayable, until 2010 when it was reopened for another Christmas, this time celebrating the indie games on WiiWare. But just like in 2006, the game closed again and then was deemed lost media. Until someone found Extra Toxic's portfolio and found that Snowdriftland was completely playable the whole time. Until Flash died and then the game was lost again. Until just last year when the game was given an overhaul in the Unity engine and dumped on Steam in the Switch eShop. All the Nintendo advertising is gone and so are the rewards, but having access to this game full time now is a huge win for preservation. Both Flash versions have also been archived on platforms like Flashpoint, so suck it, Lost Media. Another cool thing about Snowdriftland is that it's a Flash platformer that doesn't suck. The controls are surprisingly tight. They're not too different from something you'd see in a Mario game from the time. The levels are also incredibly fun. Each one is pretty short, but they are jam-packed full of collectibles and new gimmicks. They are short, sweet, easy to learn, but hard to master. Well, that's all the time I think I'll take from you. Go spend the holidays with your family. But before you do the YouTuber buzzword stuff like and subscribe, and have a Merry Christmas, or whatever you celebrate this time of year. Oh, Rose, perfect timing! Merry Christmas! Aw, yeah! Mario Party 4! I don't have this one yet!